Baruch Dayan Ha'emet. We praise the Judge of Truth. We gather to pay our respects and to lay to rest the body of our dear Konstantin Borin, Kostya. And we begin with Psalm 121. Esai enai el haharim me'ai yavo Ezri. Ezri me'im Adonai v'seshamayim va'aretz. Al yitein amot raglecha, al yanum shomrecha. Hine lo yanum v'lo yishan shomer Yisrael. Adonai shomrecha, Adonai sidcha al yad yaminecha. Yomam hashemesh lo yakeka v'yarech balayla. Adonai yishmarcha mikol ra, yishmor et nafshecha. Adonai yishmar tzedcha v'oecha me'ata v'ad olam. I lift up mine eyes unto the mountains, from whence cometh my help? My help comes from the Lord, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way, your protector will not slumber. See, the protector of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is your guardian, he is your protection at your right hand. The sun will not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord will guard you from all harm. He will guard your soul. You're going and you're coming, now and forever. Death has taken your dear, your beloved Konstantin Borin. Our friends grieve in their darkened world. In their silence there is lamentation. In their tears there is loneliness. Lost in their sorrow may they find the presence of loving friends. Hear them, O God, and be with them. For Kostya's love that united so many people in life, and which death cannot sever. For his companionship that was shared along life's path, and which continues through the tenderness of memory. For the gifts of his heart and mind that brought joy and brought happiness, and now are a precious remembrance. For all of these and more, we give our thanks to God. In this time of sadness and in this time of grief, we listen again to the voice of our sacred scriptures from Sefer Tehillim, from the book of Psalms. It tells us of our kinship with the Creator, in light as in darkness, in joy as in sorrow, in life as in death. The 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. It's a privilege to call forward Irina to speak words of Adria Kostya, and if there is someone else as well.
Hello. One of my first memories of Kostya was celebrating Boris's birthday at the Cheesecake Factory. Boris and I just started dating a few months, and that was the first time I heard the story of how Kostya met Milaya девочка Liza during his visit to Odessa. I heard that story at least 5 times a year, along with stories about Boris's childhood eating habits. With age, people tend to repeat themselves. However, when Kostya told those stories, I never minded hearing them over again, because I wasn't paying attention to the words as much I paid attention to his eyes and smile. He told them with joy, pride, and love. He was reliving those moments each time he told them. I would also look at Lisa and Boris, who weren't stopping him, even though they heard them millions of times as well. When those stories came out, they came out because he felt surrounded by love at those moments. They have been predictable, but very cozy and genuine, like a warm hug. Kostya was born into a theatrical family and those genes were passed on to him. He was a great dancer who never lost an opportunity to show off his skills. Every birthday card, every toast had a cheesy toast in it, a poem in it. His stories to grandkids would always make him giggle. Because he would make funny face expressions and unexpected sounds. When I heard him read Mucha Tukatucha to Ila and Dina for the first time, I realized why Boris is terrified of spiders. Kostya was a very loyal friend to his family and loved ones, with a high value of responsibility. He had made great friendships with his childhood friends. No holiday would go by without a phone call. He took pride about being the first one to call, to wish anybody a Happy New Year, no matter what time zone they were in. And I enjoyed witnessing their heartfelt reunion at our wedding. Kostya lived for his family, especially his grandkids. He loved them. He loved spoiling them. There was no word no when it came to them. During the last 8 months, while we were not able to visit him in person, he would get very depressed and not eat. From the outside, it looked like he was ready to go, but when he was given an option, he would always choose the option that had the best possible chance of recovery. He wanted to get better. He wanted to see the kids get married. He wanted to dance at their wedding. On Thursday, his body made that decision for him and said that it had enough. The doctor said that his heart stopped. What I know will not stop is Lisa and Boris, and someday Dina and Eli telling the story of how a boy from Chernovtsi met a mila девочка Lisa, and how bad of an eater Boris was. Although Kostya will be missed at Eli and Dina's wedding, maybe one day Boris will overcome his fear of spiders, and he will read Mucha Tukatucha to Dina and Eli's kids, with the same facial expressions that Kostya did. We'll miss you.
Hello, and thank you to everyone who was able to attend in person and to those that will later watch this remotely. For those that do not know me, I am Boris, son to Konstantin. My father lived to be 82 years old. I was there to witness the last 40 years of his life. In his mid-40s, I remember fondly walking with him down the streets of Odessa, the feeling of his warm hand clasping mine. It did not matter where we were walking to. Every walk with him felt like a new adventure that my dad was taking me on. In his 50s, I remember kindly him putting up with his teenage son, caught between a teenager seeking independence and an overprotective mother. When he was a few months from turning 60, I remember with sorrow driving home from a computer show somewhere on the East Coast when I received a call that my father was in the hospital. I learned later that he suffered a heart attack. A few weeks later, I learned from the surgeon that performed his bypass that our time together would be short. But his body was strong and survived far beyond what the doctors expected. In his 70s, I remember with joy how happy he was when his son married and when his 2 grandchildren, Elijah and Dina, were born. Sadly, the last 3 years of his life were horrible. A sharp downturn slope leading from being increasingly more and then totally bedridden. For the years we had together, I am grateful. And now his suffering has passed. Поземляем ему будет пухом.
Is there anyone else? So those words spoken as a prayer, we say Amen. Is there anyone else to speak before I speak? Okay, I just want to know. So we gather this afternoon. A saddened throng, a saddened gathering to pay tribute to the life of your dear Konstantin Borin. It is a time of sadness, profound sadness, deep sadness. Yet it is also a time of gratitude for a life well lived and full of light, like the sun, and full of love. Kostya was abundantly blessed, and he was a blessing to those whose lives he touched, and those whom he brought into his circle of family and friends. Your dear Kostya was the light of your life, and he shed light upon others through his love, through the gift of his voice, and now we know through the gift of his dance and his storytelling, and the gift of his kindness. He made many worthy contributions to God's world. He shed light in his individual interactions and in his family interactions. Things have not always been easy. There have been times of stress, there have been strains, there have been difficulties, there have been tragic deaths, and uncomfortable periods of time. So this is a good time to let in some of the light, the sun, let in some of the light and the warmth, the light of the God's healing and God's comfort. And each of us should try to shed light, especially in this time, in the shadow of your loss. Konstantin Borin was born in Odessa, August 12, 1938. His parents, Boris and Klava, of blessed memory. His older sister, Yalia, is also of blessed memory. The cup of Kostya's life and your entire family is filled to overflowing. And as your rabbi, I hope to keep some of the details in order. I make mistakes, please correct me. Kostya's parents, Boris and Klava, were both actors. Boris was Jewish, and at that time in Ukraine, of course, there was anti-Semitism. However, Boris was very talented, and they put him in charge of many productions. He was given the honorary title, the translation in English is something like national artist. Klava was working as an actress. She was in St. Petersburg. Just before World War II started, Boris and Klava were away from Odessa in St. Petersburg with the touring company. Kostya and his sister Lyalia stayed with their grandparents. Germany attacked the Soviet Union in June 1941, and during the war, Boris and Klava could not get back to Odessa. Kostya and Lyalia stayed with their grandparents. Kostya still talked about how those times were very difficult. They were terrible times. But his grandparents took care of him from the age of 3. That was wonderful. But being separated from the parents, it was a terrible time. It was during the war. And when the parents came back, after the war in 1945, he was 7 years old. And he just then started to get familiar with his parents. When you're 3 years old and you don't see your parents, it's like you don't remember much, almost anything. It was not easy. For the first time, he saw his father as a national actor, and everybody knew him. Everybody wanted to touch Kostya's parents. They were famous, and he was proud. Kostya's mother, Klava, was Ukrainian. His father, Boris, was Jewish. Kostya was always very proud of the Jewish side of his family, and he very much looked like his father. And the picture here, his father was handsome. He was handsome. You're handsome. It's a beautiful picture. In Odessa, his father was somebody. At the time, the Soviet government had a summer village by the Black Sea. His mom brought him to the summer village after the birth. It was a place families went to summer vacation. It was very, very enjoyable. After he was reunited with his parents, they moved to Chernivtsi. Elizabeth and Konstantin met in Odessa. His parents had friends from Chernivtsi. It's a hard word to say. You know, like morozhnoye. That's easier to say, right? That means ice cream. Let's get some ice cream. But Chernivtsi, and visited them in Odessa. Lisa said, we had mutual friends. We met in 1977, and he proposed very quickly. It's easy to see why. He liked nature, and he loved the colors of autumn. We were married on October 6th, 1977. Kostya and Lisa shared a marriage of 43 years, and she said it seemed like 4 months. It just flew by. There were many blessings, family and otherwise. Son Boris, his wife Ira, and the 2 grandchildren, Eli and Dina. He loved his son and daughter-in-law. She was like his own daughter. Irina was always warm and understanding, and he was always warm and understanding to her, as he was to others. He was extremely close also with Lisa's mother and father. Kostya's nieces are dear to him, and he kept in touch with them regularly. Maybe they will see this on Zoom or YouTube, whatever we're on here. Luda lives in Ukraine, and Katrina lives in Israel. His cousin Orik and his wife Elena, also, they live in Ukraine. He keeps in touch with all of them. Also, Kostya had a first marriage and a son, Sergei. Sergei went into the army as an 18-year-old, and he died in 1985 in training. And Boris was only 5 years old. And every year on Sergei's birthday, they still observed it. They still observe it with a moment of remembrance. Kostya wrote poetry. He was very artistic. He wrote poems for people's birthdays and other simchas, other joyous occasions. In November 1988, Lisa said, we moved from Odessa to the United States. We moved to America because of Boris, for his future, and the grandchildren, for their future. Kostya told the story. Even though I had Ukrainian on my passport, I got smacked in the face because I'm a Jew. Look like a Jew. Some drunk person said, I don't have water. It's because of the Jew. And the drunk man came over to him. Kostya was on the tram, the public train, and slapped him. Kostya didn't talk a lot, but it could be a problem being Jewish in the army and other problems domestically. There were many opportunities in America, so come to America. Lisa said it was a very intense time, and we got a lot of help from Jewish organizations. We went through Italy, Kostya was a very hard worker in everything he did. She said, we came to America with $100. He worked in a Jewish bakery at first. He worked all day long to make money to buy food and pay for our apartment. And our first apartment was on Noble Road. And the Jewish Family Service Association helped pay for it. There's a phrase in Hebrew from the Talmud, Kol Yisrael Arevim Zeh Bazeh, which means every Israelite, every Jew is responsible for other Jews. And so when you came and the Jewish Family Service helped you, and you help other Jews, this is what we do. We're family. Mishpacha. Lisa said, we came to Cleveland because Kostya had friends here. She said, I was a mechanical engineer. We thought it would be the best city for us. I had good friends in Michigan, in Grand Rapids, Michigan, but it's a small place compared with Cleveland, and we thought it would be better here, and we are glad we came here. Kostya found people in the United States that he had known since childhood. Some in New York and Chicago and Canada. People he was in elementary school with. We had many reunions. For every holiday, as you know, he started calling. He would call to check in on people to see and wish them the best. He united people. He brought people together in all sorts of places. United States, Ukraine, Canada. And as you know, he's been sick now for a few years. His health has been declining. It just hasn't been one thing. It's been a number of things. But he was very strong, and he had a very strong will for life. Even until his last moment, his brain was working and functioning, and he wanted to live. He wanted to live. His memory was amazing. He would still ask about the elections and how the kids were doing and what was happening. He had a very big desire for life, Ira said. And finally his heart gave out. And so he breathed his last. And now there is no more pain. There's no deterioration of his body or his mind. There's just rest and wholeness and peace. Just as Shabbat is a time of peace, so too for our dear Kostya, it is a time of rest and peace. His soul is returning to God and to be with the souls of his dear relatives and friends and ancestors of our people. We learn this in Ecclesiastes, the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 12, verse 7. The dust returns to the earth as it was. The spirit returns to God who gave it. We place the body in the ground. It will become dust eventually. The spirit, however, goes to God. God will take good care of the soul of your dear Konstantin. One day, all of us will join our dear ones in Olam Haba. Olam Haba is the world to come. Olam Haba is a spiritual place. It's an eternal place. It's not a place like this is a place. It's a spiritual time. And then you will be together again with him. No one should be in a hurry, but our faith is that when the time comes, we are together again with our loved ones in that eternal time. We have sent along an old prayer book with him and a Passover Haggadah, because Passover is about liberation from slavery. It's also about liberation from pain and difficulty. And so the family has allowed us to send these prayer books along. We give respectful burial to Kostya's body and also holy books of our tradition. You have many, many memories, and they are overflowing of our dear Kostya Borin. We give thanks to God for this gift of life. And as you think of him, maybe you should write a poem. And if you don't think you're good at writing poetry, do it anyway, because you'll get better at it. And then, for Diadushka, you'll be much better as it gets older, right? Why not? Maybe, I think we could all start writing some poems for our loved ones. You should make contact with friends and family. If you don't dance or you dance poorly, you should dance anyway, especially at a simcha. Bring people into your circle of friends and be helpful and be kind and do these things in his loving memory. For only through our deeds can the world be compensated for his loss. And so we conclude with words from the first chapter of the book of Job. Adonai Natan, Adonai Lakach, Yehi Shem Adonai Mevarach. The Lord hath given, the Lord hath taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Amen. The gentlemen will bring forward, we will cover and lower when they come forward. Ose Shalom Bimromav, Uyase Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'imru, Imru, Amen. Yase Shalom, Yase Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Yase Shalom, Yase Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael. May God, who causes peace to reign in the high heavens, cause peace to rain down upon us, upon all Israel, and upon the soul of our dearly departed Konstantin, Kostya, Borin. And let us say Amen. We're very intense people. This is intense.
Here, I'm bad with coming up with translations on the
Okay,
spot.
that's okay. That's okay.
Oh.
Sorry to ask.
Yeah, my mom will.
Okay.
I'll
no,
ask my mom.
No problem. Because when somebody says thank you, this
Yeah.
isn't time to say, you know,
Yeah.
that is like I want to say something. Yes, please put the vault lid on, and then we will shovel the earth